Okay, thank you, Shah. Today, this morning, you have gathered with media houses to give them update about the activities of the Human Rights Commission, issues affecting the TRRC, going to the Guruji Move case and other trending issues that you have so far. But I came late and I could not capture, so I feel it necessary for my viewers to know actually what transpired here. So today we are here. I just want you to give me a brief summary of actually what transpired during the press conference.
Yes, thank you very much, Kex. The press conference today was to update the media of the activities of the National Human Rights Commission since our last press briefing, which was in February, to look at what we have done since then, but also to look at human rights issues and trends currently in the Gambia. So that is what we did. So we started by explaining to the media the things we have done, updating them on recent activities, including the launching of key documents and the tools of the Commission. And one was our 5-year strategic plan, which has a resource mobilization plan and an implementation plan. So, but also today we have a fully functional website. We have a case management database system. We have published documents. There is one which we call Gambia as a bastion of human rights in Africa, and a study research that has been done on sexual harassment in the workplace and a policy on sexual harassment in the workplace. So, as you know, the National Human Rights Commission is not just a complaints institution, complaints handling institution. Its mandate is so wide, it does many things, including publishing of documents, among other things. And we submitted our 2020 report to the National Assembly. It is a requirement under our law that every year we should submit a comprehensive report to the National Assembly on the activities of the National Human Rights Commission, but also the state of human rights as we've observed it. And this was published, gazetted, and circulated. And there were other documents that of course we published, including the Police Code of Conduct, the guidelines of on policing public assembly, and there is a document that we also publish and is in circulation, and that is the detention, monitoring of detention facilities and the like. So these are the things that we've done since our last meeting with the press. What we have embarked on of recent is issues relating to the elections. Because as you know, we are in an election cycle. And it is very important that the National Human Rights Commission plays a very pivotal role in the whole process of elections. So we have met with the chairman of the IEC and the vice chairperson, the chief electoral officer, to discuss issues relating to election as it's coming. As you know, elections are human rights issues. Although the IEC is the institution that has been mandated to manage the whole process of election, but issues surrounding elections are inextricably linked with human rights. For example, the right to register, citizenship, who can vote, who cannot vote, issues relating to association, assembly, issues relating to freedom of expression, especially as it relates to the campaign period. So these are all issues that are of great importance, and we felt that it was important that we sit down with this institution to see how, as a National Human Rights Commission, we can complement their work. And we've done that. But we have also taken part in the monitoring of the registration process, which went on for 12 weeks. As a human rights institution, we were across all the regions. We monitored 67 stations, and as I speak to you, we have just finalized the report on our findings and recommendations of the registration process, which will be circulated. Everybody will have a copy, and we hope that this will help all the stakeholders moving forward as we move to the campaign period and also the voting period. So this is also one of the things that we have done during this period. We have started meeting political parties. So far, as I speak to you, we're supposed to even meet PDOIS today. but because of our press conference, I think we're going to move it to another time. But we've met with the party leader and executive of the NPP. We've met with the party leader and executive of CA, Citizen Alliance. We've met with the party leader and executive of Gambia for All. That is headed by the former Minister and Vice President Bakary Bunja Dabo. But the important of this is that as we go through this period of election, it's important that the party leaders and executives talk to their supporters. We want to hear them condemn hate speeches. We want to hear them condemn profanities that have been put out there, defamation of character. We have incitement to violence. These are the things that are out there. And very few parties the party leaders have come out to condemn these things. And we want them to, because election evokes a lot of passion and emotions. We know that. And it's even going to be more as we move towards the campaign period. And and most of the people who say these things, make this hateful statement, incitement to violence, they profess to belong to certain political parties or leanings. So I think it's very important if the party leaders themselves disassociate themselves with those kind of statements. So this is one of the things that we have embarked on. But also, what is important right now, as there is a lot of if you scan the social media, the other media outlets, you could see that Gambia seems to be a polarized society. There's a lot of hate speech, and it's coming from very interesting quarters. Apart from the political, recently you had the Alcalde of Babylon making certain statements that he will give land, but he will never give land to a section minorities like Christians if they want to bring church unless they convert. You know, we're talking about a Gambia where the Constitution talks about non-discrimination. So, and if it is coming from a leader, there is a problem, because you are speaking as an alcalo, a duty bearer. It is fundamental in human rights that the executive protect, fulfill, and respect the rights of everybody. So these are issues also that concern us greatly. Recently, you have also followed the back and forth between Imam Bakausu Fofana and also, I think, Musa Seidi. Again, religious leaders, they have a fooling. And you see, there has to be due process in everything that we do in this country. It happened during the registration process as well. What we are saying that let us follow due process. We have people questioning the Gambianness of particular groups, particular individuals. If you have doubts about the citizenship of a person, there is a process in which you can follow. It's not for you to stop people. And this should be a nation of laws. We have to follow due process. So these are concerns that we have observed, and we have raised it with the authorities. And if you see in our press releases, we have mentioned them, but also we have engaged directly with the authorities to put a stop to these things, so that this country of ours will be a country, a haven of peace. Our mandate is to bring back a culture of rule of law and human rights, and it's important that we do these things. So we are working on these things. But I think I also mentioned before you came another issue that has divided this country. And if you've been following the social media and other media outlets, you will discover that the issue of TRRC has become very contentious. And all of a sudden, there are two camps that are pitched against each other. You have one camp who are anti-TRRC. Anything about anti-TRC, they are against. The composition, its establishment, the composition. They have said very, very bad things against personnel of the TRRC and the commissioners. And a segment of them has even mentioned of late that the anticipated recommendation is tissue paper. Well, you see, this TRRC was set up for a purpose, to reconcile Gambians, so that the Gambians could heal. But in the process, to come up with a historical, impartial record of what has happened in the past. In the process of doing that, make sure that impunity doesn't happen. create reconciliation and healing, reparations, to find out about those who have been enforced disappeared, those who have disappeared during that period, and among other things, and also prosecution of those who bear the greatest burden. There are people with scars, as I talk to you. You know, Mr. Sane, members of the media, Deida Haidara, Chief Ibrahim Amane, among others, who have suffered. The death of Korosise. We've had perpetrators come before and to rubbish. If you rubbish such an institution, then how can people reconcile? How can victims reconcile? If they feel that not only it's a mockery, the whole process is a mockery. So you have this group there, but also you have another group who seem to attack the executive because they also anticipate, they believe that the recommendations will not be followed. And they see the executive as being in bed with segments of those who are anti-TRRC. They even went as far as quoting that there are perpetrators and enablers who are serving in the government, and because of that, this government will never implement the recommendation. Now, as a National Human Rights Commission, this is our position. Let us allow the TRRC to do its work. The TRRC has up to September to give us a recommendation. And the process is there for the President to study the report and within 30 days share it with the National Assembly, Secretary General of the UN and other regional and international organizations, and then a further 6 months to come with a comprehensive white paper for the implementation. And so let's allow the government, but the position of the NHRC as a National Human Rights Commission is that we cannot allow impunity in a country. And that was why the TRRC was set up. You cannot have reconciliation or healing if we sweep things under the carpet. Victims must have justice. It's important. Victims must have justice. Accountability is key to everything that relates to justice and human rights. So, so the government, obviously, when the recommendations come out, will need to be serious, and we are going to monitor the whole process. But what I want to say right now really is that these two groups pitching against each other is not helping anybody. But I think people should also be sensitive that people have lost loved ones. This is not things I am making. This is not things that others are making up. These are perpetrators who came. And we're moving towards an election year, and we have to be really careful with issues here. Remember that the drivers of conflict, especially in Africa, in Latin America, is elections, where if people feel that there is no level playing field, and then because it is election that legitimizes the democratic process. It is election that legitimizes the democratic process. So if people start questioning the legitimacy of the process, then you are actually creating a potential problem. You all know, Mr. Sane, what happened in 2016 when the head of state said that he was going to annul the election. Half of Banjul ran across to Bara and to Senegal because of the looming and impending threat to civil war and civil strife. So I think we have to be responsible. Responsibility comes with political parties. Responsibility comes with religious leaders and us individuals. Although we are right holders, but every right holder is a duty bearer. Just because you have the fundamental right to express yourself doesn't mean that you have a right to misinform and castigate others, incite violence. You can't do that. Every right holder is also a duty bearer. And if we want to have a progressive and a peaceful society, these are issues that we have to sit and talk about as a society. And so these are some of the issues that we raised because it is the current trends. As I've mentioned, and especially if you have religious leaders like Bakau Supofana, Musa Sedi, the Alcalo of Babylon, then you have parties towards the issue of Manduar, people being also allegedly excluded from votes in Kanilai. We've also been informed that there are some people wearing black, UDP threatening others, allegations again, but we're just saying that the tempo, it's dangerous for a peaceful Gambia. So these were some of those issues that we dilate upon before your arrival.
Yeah, but just for others who are just joining on, you talk about the Guruji Move issue. This is something that is trending on social media for the government to call back Guruji Move back to his position, because we have seen the recommendation of your investigation, and we learned that you guys recommended for redeployment not to go to that very institution that he was heading. But we have seen that the government has reinstated him, and even to the very position that he has been serving, and it has been a trend on the social media. Can you just tell us whether you are consulted before the decision has been taken by the executive?
Yeah, okay. Again, if I'm going to talk about Guruji Move, I'll need to give you a bit of context, 2 minutes, and then I'll talk. This was a joint panel that was set up in July of last year. You remember it had gone viral when it was alleged that the Commander Guruji Move assaulted Ibrahim Asane on his private parts. And there were also other allegations of torture, of forced labor of the detainees. And, you know, it almost caused a riot because the youths were very angry because they said that this was the modus operandi. It was the way in which the anti-crime was conducting its affairs. Then the late IGP was very concerned, and he started his own investigation into the matter. But of course, when he started the investigation and wanted to form a panel, people in general did not trust that panel. So he reached out to the National Human Rights Commission that was seen as an independent institution. And we, at the time, we had actually started our own investigation. So we advised him and that this panel has to be very independent and public. And this was what was done. We chaired the investigation, the joint panel of investigation, and the representative, you had the police, crime management unit, you had the Minister of Interior, you had Tango, had a representative, you had a representative of the Gambia Bar Association. These were people who sat in this panel. And we went through, we interviewed 17 witnesses, 17, including those who were arrested with Ibrahim Asane, including the police, including even Guruji Move himself. We also went to the scene, and the crime scene. We invited the doctor who treated Ibrahim Asane, because if you remember, there were allegations that he may have suffered from STD and other things. And we had a comprehensive report. But before that, we drew up a TOR, which we all agreed to. One was to look at the circumstances surrounding the arrest and detention of Ibrahim and his group. Two, to look at who actually assaulted. Was he assaulted? And who assaulted? Was it Guruji Move? Three, to also advise the IGP on issues surrounding police arrest, detention, policing of our communities, because it was becoming problematic. As you know, it started with even the Usman Dabo case. And the IGP really needed an independent institution to lead this process. So we did the investigation. We did a comprehensive report of 34 pages, 17 witnesses, and then the recommendations were comprehensive: short, immediate, medium, and long term. But the ones you are interested in is what was said about Guruji Move. In the recommendations, among the many things what we said, the panel, all of us, agreed that based on the evidence that was presented, the facts, that actually Commander Guruji Move did assault him on his private parts. It was also clear that the assault was also not permanent. It was something that will go away based on the medical evidence, among other things. It was also clear that Ibrahim and the group that were arrested were subjected to farm labor, among other things. So we recommended, based on the evidence, that disciplinary measures against Guruji Move, and also his redeployment of anti-crime, because there was a lot of tension on those areas. But the important and among the many other recommendations we made was the way police record arrest, detention, the station diaries, even the pocket books, among other things, and even a code of conduct. In fact, it was our recommendation on the police having a code of conduct that brought about a code of conduct today for the police that they have started implementing. But going back to Guruji Move, the Inspector General of Police, after receiving the report of the joint panel, remember, It was a joint panel. So, so even if the police, if the IGP have done what allegedly has been said to be done by redeploying him, it means that he's going against the recommendation of his own representative. Actually, both the police and remember, there was also an Interior, Minister of Interior representative. So the late IGP agreed. We also recommended compensation of some amount of money for the harm and injury caused to Ibrahim Asane. That amount was paid through us, and it was paid to Ibrahim Asane. The IGP wrote to us that he will start implementing the recommendations that we have done, because it was a recommendation even to help the police. We felt that the police were even challenged in in the job that was given to them, and he said that he was going to implement all of it, and to show the goodwill and the good faith, he immediately withdrew Guruji Move from there, and I think he was deployed to CRR. So this is the nature of it, and all of a sudden we saw this in the newspaper. What we have done as an institution, we just don't act on hearsay. We have just written to the Inspector General of Police asking him whether it is true and the rationale why this happened. Because, listen, we are not just talking about, the National Human Rights Commission is not just a civil society organization. We are a state-based institution which has been established under the UN Paris Principle. Our mandate is very clear. We are just not a talk shop. So our recommendations must be taken seriously. Here we were brought in to chair a panel, which we've done, and the recommendations were based on consensus. But let us wait and hear from the IGP, because we have written to him. So this is what I will say about the issue of Guruji Move. But moving forward, the police have a lot of work to do. We are going to election year. Just recently, yesterday, we're still trying to find out more about the incidents in KMC. It's a delicate situation. We know where we're coming from, the 22 years of policing in this country and what it has brought this country. So the IGP has his work cut out for him. He has a lot on his plate. We will support, because it is our job to bring back a culture of rule of law. But and we are independent, and we will raise the red flag wherever it comes. Sometimes civil society is not happy with what we say. Sometimes the government is not happy with what we are saying. But I don't think we're here to make people happy. We are not here to sell ice cream. So, but this is our job, and we will do it to the best of our abilities. But as we go through the election period, I think issues about policing, campaign period is coming. We need to be very serious in what we do. Thank you. But I think these were the issues that you missed, Mr. Sane.
One would say that because orders are working, one would say that, okay, people's right has been violated. You talk about the TRRC, you have two camps. The others anti-TRRC and the others, and you could see some messages on social media infringing on the rights of others. Yes. Because if somebody's right is violated, and we establish an institution to look at this right violation and come with recommendation, and we see people attacking those people, it looks like they are infringing the rights of it. Whether the Human Rights Commission, since it is a right institute, it's an issue that is affecting the human rights of the people. Do you have any, or are you ready to take legal actions against people that are infringing the rights of other people? Because we have seen it on social media. They are plain there. You could see their writings. Yeah. Whether you are in any way trying to take a legal action, not to wait for the TRS, because as it goes on, it might create some chaos in this country. Yes, but this is why we have started our engagement. You start with the engagement. And we've started with the engagement, and that was why we spoke to the president about the position that we see developing as far as the TRRC concerned. And I don't think the executive should be cornered into a point to look as if they are anti-TRRC. And this is what is happening, because the victims and their families and those who support the TRRC, the work of the TRRC, are suspicious. And I've told you the suspicion. They've raised the suspicion that, one, recommendations usually may not be taken. Two, they feel that certain people who have been named as perpetrators or enablers are part of the government. And they also perhaps see, sometimes they see the government as perhaps being in bed, as I said, with some of those who are anti-TRRC. I've mentioned that. And, so there is that group. But as I said,
let them allow the TRRC to finish its work and we move on. But what is of great concern to us as well, because if you ask, are we biased? And this is what question some of them will say. Of course we are biased. When it is coming to violations of human rights, that one I will not shy away to tell you that Kex, I'm very biased against anybody who violates human rights. But that's why I'm here as chairperson. And as long as I'm chairperson of Human Rights Commission, I'll be biased towards people who violate human rights and those who support violations of human rights. If not, I'll be failing in my duty. I might as well park and go. So there I don't make any apologies to anybody. But what I will say is this. The TRRC Act is very clear. It talks about reconciliation. I have mentioned that. But it does not only talk about reconciliation and healing. This is important you know how quickly we forget Kex. But there was a time this country was tense. At night, even you, after talking to me, you may be arrested and I will follow suit. We may be sharing the same cell at Baba Dinka and other places. These are stories we are not making. So if we are not honest, if we have deniers, then we have a problem. So what do we have? Then you have a camp that denies any wrongdoing. Yeah, and you have perpetrators who have said these things. Will that bring healing? It will not bring healing. If you have people mentioning and anticipating the recommendation and saying that it will be tissue paper, that's offensive to the victims. We have, as I talk to you, people have family members who have disappeared. Their remains have not been found. The death of Korosise, we had. The death of Deida Haidara. I am not making this up. And many others. The list is out. I have the list. I have the list. And so if we have victims and others who feel that not only are they mocking them, but they are taunting them, this is dangerous. And we need to nip this in the bud. And we have to be very frank about these things. This is not about revenge. But you cannot talk about healing, justice, healing and reconciliation without justice. We cannot allow impunity. Those who bear the greatest responsibilities must be brought to book. The victims must have justice. There must be reparation. Accountability is key to all that we are doing. So what I'm saying is, let us listen to the recommendations. But the government, the executive, should not be boxed into being seen as if they are anti-TRRC. Because this is what I am seeing. This is what I am saying. That should not happen. That should not happen. And then number two, those who are also attacking the government, give them chance. Until the recommendations come out, give them the benefit of the doubt. So this is the problem. But we're going to live with the issues of TRRC. But of course, there are some people who want the TRRC to fail for obvious reasons. But the TRRC was set up for a reason. And the reason why the NHRC was set up was never again. We are the institution that will move with the never again mantra. So that when these things are happening, we flag it. When these things are happening, we'll make sure that it doesn't happen. And we will support any institution, any group, any society to make sure that human rights is paramount in whatever we do. So yes, that's what I'm saying. The engagement is the start of all these things. And we have a multi-pronged approach to these things. As I said, our mandate is so broad. It's not only complaints, mechanism handling, it's reviewing even laws. We've been called by National Assembly. You were there the day when we were there. Election. The UN talks to us. As I said to His Excellency, the head of state, you may have the NIA and SIS on security matters, but when it comes to democratization, rule of law, and human rights, we are the SIS. Because we talk with everybody, we have investigators on the ground, we know what is happening, and it is our job. We do not take sides. What we want is a Gambia that flourishes, and in so doing, we flag these issues. Sometimes the way we say it, people may not be happy, but we will not sit down and people will come, Kex will come back to us and say, hey, you didn't say anything about TRRC. Hey, you didn't say anything about Guruji Move. You didn't say anything about police brutality. You didn't say anything about the elections, registration process. We will not be caught on that. We will not want you to come and say you didn't say anything about profanities, incitement to violence, people inciting others to kill others. We will flag it and we'll take up to the highest level. Thank you very much, Kex.
Thank you very much. I think this has summed up everything. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm so grateful.